totals I don't totally agree with. Bills are at 10.5. Dolphins are at 9.5. The Jets, who are led by a quarterback who hasn't thrown for 300 yards in 23 games, at 9.5. And then the Patriots on the drive for 5 at 4.5. Now, we'll start with you, Brou. Is this the year Miami gets over the hump?
No. I mean, everybody's talking about the Jets offseason acquisition. Oh, Tyron Smith, he's not going to be healthy. These guys can't stay healthy. Mike Williams. Shaq Barrett, Jordan Poyer's going to be 33, and he's had some injury issues. Same thing with Barrett. Like, I think that's a concern. And the bottom line is this. Tua has yet to prove he can play well against good teams. All right, 1-6 last year against playoff teams. And it wasn't just that they lost. It was that his production plummeted. Mm-hmm. And then, Coach, in most cases, to get where you want to go in the playoffs, you have to be able to win in cold weather. It's not even cold weather. It's brisk. Well, it's just a little brisk. All right, 46 degrees and under, Tua's 0-6. I mean, if you're going to have to beat Buffalo in the playoffs, we know that we don't have to worry about New England, but Buffalo, Cincinnati, Kansas City, maybe even Baltimore as far as weather, like, you have to go through some cold weather teams. So, no, they're not getting over the hump.
Yeah,
they'll be all right.
I didn't love last year how they faded down the stretch. And you look at the last 2 games of the season, throws 4 picks in those 2 games. He's got the 2 worst quarterback ratings in those 2 games. And the team as a whole, losing Vic Fangio, and I'm not saying he's a savior, but he's a very good defensive coordinator. And I thought he brought some balance to that team because being a former head coach and being an older coach, I think that's a good mix to have in the room, and his system is solid. So there's that transition that they're going to go through defensively. They've got salary cap issues, so there's not a lot of room to improve there. Thankfully, they've actually got some draft picks for the first time in a long time, so that's good. But it's a star-studded team. It's a little bit unconventional in the way that it's being run, and there's good things about it. But let's see whether or not it can hold up year in, year out. And then the injury issue, Tua is a concussion away from being out and potentially out long term. So there's that, and now he doesn't have a new contract. So you've got this team full of stars that are highly paid, especially the offensive guys, and you've got a quarterback that the organization is saying, we don't believe enough in him to where we want to extend him at this point. That doesn't add a lot of it's not what you want, the message you necessarily want to be sending.
Do you believe in organizational momentum, where we've seen the Packers, they won a playoff game. Let's see what they do. The Lions finished 2 years ago, finished hot, got hot in the playoffs. This year, we hope they take the next step. The Texans won a playoff game. Maybe this year they can take the next step. The Dolphins, when Jordan Poyer's talking about getting over the hump is winning 1 playoff game this century. It was December 30th, 2000. I was still getting carded at bars. I was 24 years old. So do you think they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games since then? Like, do they just need to win 1 game? Like, good news, we're building something.
They might.
Look, we got a game this century.
Organizational momentum can be a real thing, but look at the Giants. They go to the playoffs and then they take a step back, and there's that component of it too, and how well you deal with success, how much you learn, how much you change, all those things.
The Giants dealt with injuries. I mean, I don't think the Giants were really that special anyway, but Daniel Jones got injured. So, I mean, and again, I don't think Daniel Jones is the savior for the Giants, but he's used that now example a couple times, and I think it's a silly example, quite honestly. But besides that, this whole idea of getting over the hump for the Dolphins, I personally do not see it. And I've said this before, I want to see the Dolphins succeed. I love Tua, and I want to see Tua succeed. But I think Brou put it best about calling them breakdancers. Like, it really is fascinating. When you watch them, you really can see, softness might be too strong of a word, but the lack of physicality. And there is a fragility to Tua, whether it be the weather, whether it be his arm strength, whether it be his injury risk, which is a real thing. People in the comments recently tried to downplay that, and it's just, I think that's silly, and smartly so. He's kind of changed how he addresses the game, and it's a great move on his part, but it's still a very much real thing for him, whether it's concussions or even he's had multiple ankle surgeries, he's had these issues. And again, I want Tua to succeed. Tua is the type of person, the type of human being that I want to see succeed and be elevated and be popular, and again, in the NFL, in a league where we have players who are racing on freeways and harming people and getting in severe car crashes, I want to see someone like Tua be elevated and celebrated and get that payday. So I really truly am rooting for them, but I think for Tua to succeed consistently, he does need a team like the 49ers, which they have a physical defense and a physical offense, which then allows the Purdy and the Garoppolos of the world to not have to be superheroes. Now, granted, they have some big names on offense, and they have some of those weapons, but it is a different style of play. I mean, Kittle is a monster, is a workhorse. The guy can run through a brick wall. Christian McCaffrey, obviously, a monster, a workhorse, can run through a brick wall. Debo, he's very fancy as well, but he is also a beast in that regard, so there is difference. There is a different aspect of that. And at this point too, as fast as Tyreek Hill is, it's every 5 seconds you see him on the sideline being like he's tweaking something. And his game, because it's so built on his speed, it doesn't travel well in tough environment games, and especially, freezing cold games. We saw that in the playoffs, where a Christian McCaffrey or even, a Kittle or Debo for that matter, you'll be able to just get the ball in those hands and they can kind of make some moves. And I've compared this to before. Another aspect that Tua lacks is also a Josh Allen aspect of being okay, I need to get 6 yards for this first down. This is a key moment in the game. I'm going to get it. Not only am I going to get it, but I'm going to be able to not only either get this first down in dramatic fashion where I just get it, or I'm going to rip off a 20, 30-yard run and really blow this wide open now. Tua lacks that ability, unfortunately, because of his size, just his sheer size, not even his injury risk, just his size alone, which he's admitted that he can't even see the field as well. He's admitted it, that there's certain aspects of the game because he's smaller that he can't see. He can't even see over all the linemen. He's just a smaller guy. Just is what it is. That's his own words. And I think that's what makes it more difficult. So I think they need to build a team that's more aligned with what we've seen the 49ers, or even to some degree, this is going to be a random one, the Cowboys back when they had Ezekiel Elliott, when Dak Prescott was, a rookie of the first couple years. It was definitely a harder team, more physical, definitely more going through Zeke, a very tough offensive line. And I think that's something, but a very fancy, high-flying, fast offense, that is great during the regular season. That is great when the weather is 80 degrees and sunny and you're playing the Broncos or you're indoors, on turf. But when you are playing in the brutal conditions, and they're an AFC team, so, their options are the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs. Unless they get home field and secure it, they are playing in brutal, freezing cold weather. And that game just does not travel well. And having a quarterback that you can't consistently rely on also at this point to go get you 4 or 5 yards, put your head down and go get it, it limits you. It really, really does. So they need some true physical workhorses. And if they get that, then you can then highlight some of Tua's strengths and some of the finesse and some of the more, I don't even know what to refer to it, game-breaking plays that the 49ers, not the 49ers, that the Dolphins, have the ability to do, and that their head coach, who also has obviously proven to be, a great offensive mind, that he can kind of design and get that going. But, it's a lot easier said than done. So I'm curious to see what type of draft, who they pick and what they look for. But to me, it's very obvious is that they do lack that physicality, and the way how the team is built, it can highlight Tua's strengths, but it doesn't take care of his weaknesses. And every team needs to be able to not only highlight, your main player's strengths, specifically your quarterback, and then also be able to minimize the weaknesses. That's not what this team can do. It highlights his strengths, does not minimize his weaknesses. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Can the Dolphins get over the hump? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with the visibility and the algorithm, and it helps combat all the haters and the trolls. Thank you so much, and see you next time.